One man, because as we studied, this has to do with decades and decades of us just watching our country and just sitting idly by. We should look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you know, we are just as guilty. We are part of the problem. We became complicit. But I do blame even more those who have been complicit in power, in places of power, not only complicit, who have actually done things to hurt this republic, who intentionally continue on. I mean, you're seeing it played out right now with the Obamacare thing going on with the Catholic Church. And, you know, for all that it's worth, finally, the Catholic Church is standing up and saying no! They do have a role to play, and they do have some blame. They do carry some of the blame because they were abdicating responsibility where charity belongs up to the federal government. And we need to stop that. As Americans, we have to understand that we cannot abdicate our responsibility, and we can't continue to allow organizations to be infiltrated by a federal government. We have to stop that. And I'm so glad, because this gets down to the crux of what I'm talking to you about making that moral argument for Americanism. Right there belies the whole issue of what we have, of a media that continues to try to misdirect the argument and change the argument to contraception or change the argument to women's rights. This is not about contraception. This is not about women's rights. This is about our freedom that is being taken away. When a government, a central authority tells you, here are your rights and here's how you have to exercise them, we are no longer in America, folks. We are no longer an American country when that happens. Which, by the way, America is not defined by our geography. And it's not even defined by the people. It is defined by an idea. And that is the idea that I'm discussing with you today that cannot be bastardized. It cannot be perverted. Okay, we can sit there and play with all the names, whether it's liberalism or conservatism, Republican, Democrat. But like I said before, we transcend those things. We transcend party politics. We transcend all those names, because those names can be redefined. They can all be redefined in so many different ways, and we see it before our very eyes. It's almost laughable when we read some articles sometimes as to how the media will twist and turn to get whatever they ingest and decide what they're going to put back out. And they pervert goodness. It's a constant perversion of what is good in America and the true principles and values that define Americanism. We know what that definition is, and we know what the school books are trying to do. As I said before, it's infiltrated every part of our society, but it goes deeper. It goes into our homes, it goes into our schools, it goes into our government systems, into our religious establishments, trying to pervert and change that real founding document. And dismissing the Declaration of Independence. Folks, don't let the Declaration of Independence ever die in your hearts. We ignited that flame again. We don't need to recreate that flame, that ignition. We are the flame, and we have to keep passing it along to everybody that you meet, your neighbors, your friends, anybody that you come in contact with them. Get them to understand Americanism, because that's what it's going to be about, is us relearning, like Jason said, what we did. We had to educate ourselves. We didn't even really realize how lost we had been for decades, how our education system failed us to not be talking about civics, not really discussing the true history of our foundation, our fundamental principles. When you get back down to it, we have to become the Federalist Papers once again. We have to be the living proof, the living and walking Federalist Papers. I'm going to quote something from Samuel Adams because I think it's important right now at this stage. But neither the wisest constitution nor the wisest laws will secure the liberty and happiness of a people where manners are universally corrupt. He, therefore, is the truest friend of liberty of his country, who tries most to promote its virtue, and who, so far as his power and influence extend, will not suffer a man to be chosen into any office of power and trust, who is not a wise and virtuous man. Take that to heart, folks. Take that to heart when you think about elections and you understand who we're putting into office. And if you remember, many of us have gone through all the studying, and I'm sure you've Googled Samuel Adams, and you see that famous picture. Everybody know the picture I'm talking about. He's in that red-breasted suit, and he's pointing down. You wonder what he's pointing down at. At that point in history, there was no America yet. He was still under British rule, but yet he considered himself a free man. But he was pointing at the Massachusetts Charter. And I love that picture because it's exactly what we need to ingrain in our minds, to stand firm, to stand strong, pointing at the rule of law and saying, you are overstepping your bounds. You cannot do this anymore. We will stand firm. You can wipe out every single document in the world, but we will have that flame inside us. We will keep that strength inside us as Americans. So please, I ask you to get more involved, to make sure you're doing your homework. Don't be spoon-fed. Make sure you get out and do your homework, do the study, pass along factual information, get to your legislators, get to your local county commissioners, and make sure that you're strengthening your community, because when you strengthen your community, you'll strengthen your state. And when we start strengthening our state, we will strengthen this country from within. So again, I beg of you, stand strong, stand firm, be courageous, and continue spreading the wildfire of freedom. God bless you. Thank you.